The rise and fall of Baal, the Stormlord's epic battle against chaos, death, and Yahweh. In the ancient lands of Canaan, long before the rise of monotheism, before the name of Yahweh echoed across deserts and mountains, another deity ruled supreme. Baal, the rider upon the clouds, the master of storms, and the conqueror of chaos, held dominion over the forces of nature, ensuring the balance of life and death. His thunder heralded the rains that fed the land, and his fury struck down the chaotic forces that threatened order. But his tale is not one of eternal rule. It is a saga of power, rivalry, and ultimately demonization. The birth of the Stormlord. Long before Baal emerged as the storm god of Canaan, his essence was already present in the divine figures of Hadad, Adad, and Teshub. He was a god of thunder, of winds that carried the storms from the Mediterranean, and of the life-giving rains upon which the people depended. Unlike the great river gods of Mesopotamia, where civilization thrived along the Tigris and Euphrates, Canaan relied on Baal's tempests for survival. It was here, in this land of arid fields and fierce skies, that his power took root, where he became not just a storm god, but the god of the people. Yet the divine pantheon of Canaan was not a peaceful one. Baal's rise to supremacy was not given. It was won through battle. The war against chaos, Baal versus Yam. At the dawn of his legend, Baal faced his first great adversary, Yam, the god of the primordial sea. Where Baal represented order and fertility, Yam embodied the abyss of chaos, the untamed waters that threatened to consume all. One day, Yam, in his arrogance, demanded that El, the high king of the gods, hand over Baal as a servant. The divine court, fearful of Yam's boundless power, hesitated. Even Asherah, the queen mother, did not come to Baal's aid, for she feared he would supplant her own divine sons. But Baal was no slave. He stood defiant, wielding his twin clubs, Ugaritic and Ayamur, crafted by the divine smith Kothar Wakasis. With a roar that shook the heavens, he waged war against Yam, striking him down with a fury that split the skies. The sea recoiled, the rivers shrank in terror, and the chaotic abyss was cast down. But victory was not enough. A god who ruled without a throne was no king. And so Baal turned to claim his rightful palace upon Mount Zaphon. The building of the palace and the foreshadowing of doom. Victory against Yam established Baal as the new divine ruler, yet his power remained incomplete. He needed a throne, a palace, a symbol of his authority. But the gods, still wary of his strength, hesitated. It was only through force and persuasion, through Asherah's cunning and Anat's relentless violence, that Baal was granted permission to construct his golden fortress. Kothar Wakasis, the divine architect, built Baal's palace of cedar and gold, a marvel upon the sacred mount. But there was one feature Baal initially refused: a window, for through windows death enters. Baal versus Mot, the battle against death. The world rejoiced under Baal's reign. Rains fell, crops flourished, and the people thrived. But balance is a cruel law. Where life rises, death follows. And so came Mot, the god of death, whose hunger was endless. Mot demanded Baal surrender himself, to bow before the abyss and be consumed. Yet the Storm Lord was not one to yield. He refused. But Mot was not Yam. He did not fight with waves or wind. He fought with inevitability. Baal fell. With his death, the land withered. The storms ceased. The fields turned to dust. The gods wept, mourning his loss by slashing their bodies in grief, a ritual so powerful it would later be forbidden by Yahweh's followers. The earth languished in drought and despair. But Baal was not without an avenger. Anat, the goddess of war and carnage, the one who delighted in the blood of battle, descended upon the underworld in wrath. She found Mot and tore him apart, grinding his corpse into dust and scattering it across the fields. With death undone, Baal rose once more, his resurrection heralding the return of the storms and the renewal of the land. But something had changed. Death does not forget. And though Mot was torn asunder, he would return, and with him a cycle would begin. one of endless battle between fertility and famine, between life and decay. The true rival, Yahweh, arrives. For centuries Baal reigned, but then from the south, from the deserts of Seir, came a new god, Yahweh. Unlike Baal, who commanded the heavens with visible storms and rains, Yahweh was a god of fire and law, a god unseen, unshaped and jealous. The Israelites, his chosen people, waged war not just against the Canaanites, but against their gods. The battle was not only fought on land, it was waged in myth, in scripture, in prophecy. At first, Yahweh and Baal coexisted, their worship interwoven. Many Israelites honored both, unable to distinguish the storm from the fire. But the Yahwist priests sought to erase Baal, to demonize him, to transform him from a storm god into a symbol of sin. They rewrote the myths, casting Baal's name into curses, changing his epithets into mockeries. The greatest insult came with his final transformation, not into a forgotten god, but into a demon. The demonization of Baal. As Yahweh's worship spread, Baal was reduced, vilified. His name became synonymous with evil, Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, a grotesque shadow of his former self. No longer was he the storm god who conquered the sea and death. He was now a devil, a deceiver, cast down into the grimoires of occultists and exorcists. And yet his legend endured. Even in Christian texts, his power was acknowledged. He was named the Prince of Demons, an entity so feared that even Christ was accused of wielding his power. The old myths never truly vanished. They were reshaped, retold, rebranded. And now, in the modern age, with the rediscovery of the Ugaritic texts, the truth of Baal is rising again. The storm still roars. The rider upon the clouds is no mere devil, no fallen spirit. He is an ancient god, a force of nature, a legend that cannot be erased. The return of the storm. The myths of Baal remind us of a time when gods battled for supremacy, when chaos and order were forces to be reckoned with, when the cycle of life and death was understood not as a punishment, but as a balance. The Israelites may have written him out of history, but history remembers. And as the clouds gather once more, the name of Baal echoes in the thunder, reminding the world that some gods never truly die. For those seeking to delve deeper into the myths of Baal, the Ugaritic texts remain a powerful source of insight into one of the most influential deities of the ancient world. The past is not forgotten, and the gods of old still whisper in the winds of history.